Welcome to the, oh, recording it. Okay, I better mind my P's and Q's.
I want
Well,
to comb your hair first.
yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew. I'm the designated broker here at My Home Group. Welcome to the June broker updates. I can't believe it's already June. The year has gone by exponentially faster than last year, it feels like. I don't know if everybody else feels the same, but for me, it sure feels that way. So we have a few things on our plate, but really, we really like to make this an open forum to let everybody, if they have a specific question or if you have something you're dealing with in a transaction, or if you have, just want to know about what the market's going on, feel free to ask us those questions. But I will just hit a quick market recap. So Armless sends out data every 15th of the month. So unfortunately, May isn't officially out yet, but a couple of highlights from the May release that took care of April was that average new list prices were up 32.8% year over year, which is absolutely insane. Average sales price was up 33.5% year over year. So that tells me that not only are things selling higher, they're selling for more than they're listed for. And then as of right now, I think this is a current stat. The monthly supply is at 0.98. So what that means is we don't even have 1 month's supply of inventory, and that's current today. And we've been hovering around that since last June. So I mean, it's been almost a full calendar year of being at less than a month's supply. And what does that mean? That means if no other properties were listed, we would be out of homes to sell within 30 days. So just a crazy, crazy stat. Actually, and what's funny is year over year, because if you think about what happened a year ago, we were in the middle of the pandemic. So year over year, inventory is up. Year over year, inventory active listings is up. So what that says is, and sales are actually down year over year or month over month. And then year over year, they're up 36%. So what that means is no one was listing their houses even back in the pandemic, but that demand was all pent up. So when they started listing it, we can't list them fast enough. So it's a crazy, crazy thing to think that we have increased our inventory slightly. New inventory is up year over year from last May, essentially. May to April is 14.4% increase. And it's crazy to me to think that we've been operating at this less than a month supply, but our inventory has steadily increased, and we're still operating at or near the same supply levels that we've seen over the past 12 months. So anybody who's asking you, hyper local so this is Armless, so Maricopa County, but anybody who's working in the outside areas will tell you that it's largely the same, if not worse, in some of the areas like Pine, Payson, Heber, Flagstaff. Flagstaff is a bloodbath if you're trying to buy anything for your clients. But anybody will tell you that hyper local Arizona, I mean, there's going to have to be, and knock on wood, nothing happens, but hyper local here, there's going to have to be some kind of drastic change to our market conditions to affect the market that as we see it today, with the multiple offers, with the over asking, with 24 hour, 48 hours, 72 hours on the market, stuff like that. It's going to take something. And there's a couple of things that could affect it drastically. One would be affordability, which we're starting to creep up on. So who knows if the current appreciation trends can continue. I think that's a little dubious to expect 32% increase but for the next year. And then the other thing that could really affect that would be any change to interest rates or the bond market. So if any drastic change, I guess, because even if the interest rates would have to go up a full almost 2 points to match where I bought my property in 2018. So I've refinanced since then, but I locked in a conventional rate of 4.75% in May of 2018. And obviously we all know what happened. The interest rates plummeted, spiked demand. They're slowly starting to increase, but they've kind of leveled off over the past, I don't know, month and a half. And if you listen to what the Fed says, they're not going to do too much with it for the foreseeable future. So I think the market's going to stay where it is, if not get a little bit stronger. And the other thing I will say is just Phoenix. So not any other municipality, not Scottsdale, not Gilbert, not Tempe, just the city of Phoenix for the last 5 years has averaged about 25,000 new residents every year. And last year, 25,000 residents just to Phoenix was more than the growth of 24 other states.
Right.
So that you put all those things together, and then you're seeing the market that we're seeing.
Right. One thing that would change that too, when you say dramatic change, because both of those things you talked about were affordability. The FHA loan limit is based partly on the median home price, but also based on the annual average household income in Maricopa County, which is $60,000 a year. And if you break that down into $5,000 a month, most lenders will allow a homeowner to have a third of their monthly gross income dedicated toward their housing expense, whether that's rent or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, HOA. So 1,700 maybe. And at the current interest rates, when you do the math, that's a $400,000 purchase with roughly 5% down or something like that. So clearly that pool of buyers under 390 or 385 or whatever it is bigger than a hula hoop, and in the inventory of homes is the size of a golf ball. Clearly a lot of people selling all at one time would cause prices to curb and drop. We saw that happen back in 2008 after the new tax laws went into effect in 2006. Live in a house for 2 years and sell it and take a capital gain, tax-free capital gain. That was a significant change in 2005 that most people don't even know about. And it caused a lot of sellers to hit the market. These prices and some of the crazy things that we're seeing out there, waived appraisal contingencies and all the rest, can cause more people to suddenly want to sell. And if we do, that can change our inventories too. I just put the actives on the screen for you. So clearly, any dramatic change with interest rates or affordability, like you said, or just with, a bunch of people panic selling. We've seen a lot of panic buying in the past year or two. Maybe some panic selling could cause things to level off. I don't think we're going to see the crash we saw before, but we could certainly see things level off.
No, I would agree with that. And that leads me, what you just said leads me into one of the issues that we're having is sellers signing the contract and then deciding that they don't want to move or sell their property. Right. And I've never seen in the past 60 days, I've never seen more of those than I have in I've seen more in the past 60 than I have in my entire career. Yeah. And it's a function of them not being able to find anything else. They can't find the replacement property. They thought, great, I'm making 200K on my house, but then, oh crap, I got to sink that into the next house. So I didn't really, that money I thought I made, I didn't make. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's a great, I tell a bunch of my clients, it's a great time to sell if you're leaving the state or if you're going to go rent an apartment. But if you're trying to stay here and replace it and move up, it can be brutal. All right. It can be brutal.
While I have the screen up, I also want to always direct people back to our My Agent portal, Broker Sumo, what we all sort of call MAP. I mean, we have the acronyms for everything in our industry, COE and SPUDS and BINSR and, all those things. But the My Agent portal is a great place if you're not tuned into this every day. We used to have the Arizona Republic delivered to our house into my office. And, it's like today opening a browser with Flex MLS and with SkySlope and with, exactly what my browser has in it, Gmail, SkySlope, Flex MLS and Broker Sumo, and watching for some of the updates that come across the screen here. And of course, one thing we've got, since it's a broker update, is the broker department tile, if you will. If you click on that, obviously, how do you reach us? The broker hotline is available 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. There are 5 or 6 of us that answer those calls. at any given time. Even Mr. Glenn there, your DB, will often pick up in the evening or on the weekend. That's amazing. I've been with 3 or 4 different brokers in my career, and a hands-on, in the trenches DB and 2 full-time managing brokers is amazing, let alone a few part-time folks that we have that help out with Sky Slope Review and the broker hotline is amazing. So hats off to your DB for that. The Broker Corner is a place you can go, to catch a few short videos. Obviously, most of these are me, so this isn't really a Todd commercial, but once in a while, this is Andrew. It might be John. It could be somebody else, but for the most part, these are me. I jump into the studio. It's right down the hallway from me. I'm the closest one to it. I'm the only one who doesn't care what I look like or sound like on camera. So, but these are great we try to keep them 1, 2, maybe 3 minutes long, little tips. Some of the things you guys had submitted, when you registered for this session today was, what's making the phone ring? What about this? What about that? Appraisal waiver, appraisal modifications, closing dates. I mean, Andrew and I talked before the session today about timing of events 3 days prior to closing, and we go into detail on those, even though they're short videos. So if you haven't watched any of these, there's probably 40 of these out there right now. Take a minute after the session today and just watch 1 or 2 and see what you think. And if you like it, watch a few more and share with the mastermind group on Facebook, which I don't have up today. But another thing, another newspaper delivered to your front door should be the mastermind group on Facebook.
Absolutely, and that's a great plug, Todd. Thank you for showing the map Broker Corner, because we have put a significant amount of energy and time into making that map portal helpful and valuable to our agents, so that they could see what's going on in my home group, where to find documents, where to find broker tips. Maybe they watch one of your videos, they don't have to send an email or make a phone call. Maybe it's late at night and they need an answer. Those are the things that we thought about, and every single one of those videos is the genesis of either Todd, John, or myself getting a phone call, and then we're like, holy crap, we got to make a video on that because we've had it 5 times today or something like that. That's always those videos are always in response to a need. It's not just there's not a lot of fluff in there. It's all very specific to contract events, to very reoccurring contract problems. So that's one of the things that I think we're pretty proud of in the last 90 days that we've gotten built up is that. So it's pretty good, and I think that the videos are very informative. So if anybody has any questions about those, you can always take a look at those videos and shoot us an email if you have a suggestion for a video. We'd love to hear it, because we're bogged down in the trenches, answering agents, answering emails, answering other brokers, trying to help you guys close deals. And sometimes those creative juices aren't always flowing. So if you have something that you think is important that we may have missed or is just happening in your business, we'd love to hear about that too.
I think another thing too would be, we also send out an email to all agents. I think it comes out on Tuesday, is it?
Yeah, every Tuesday.
Kind of a weekly wrap up or whatever. So if you're not getting that, check your junk or spam folder. Look for that, from my own group. And, usually one of these videos goes out with that. So like if you look at the screen right now, sort of the Tuesday tip or whatever they want to call it. This last one was about furniture and personal property. And actually your assessment of what the broker videos and what drives those when we get 2 or 3 calls in a row, or we see through 2 or 3 files in a row that are owner agent listings with no owner agent addendum. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to do an owner agent video, so we do. But it reminds me of the residential purchase contract, when everywhere you see those initials, other than the ones that are at the bottom of the page, are all results of lawsuits that have occurred in Arizona. So when the buyer has to initial in the home warranty section whether he wants one or is declining one. They have to initial that because somewhere someone got sued for not going out of their way to make sure the buyer had a chance to get one. All those little places is why you have those extra initials that are so easy to miss. And it reminds me of what drives the broker video. It's like something comes up, it comes up 3 times in one day or in 1 week. And we're like, let's get that out there as quickly and as, succinctly as we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the point is, we have this contract that's living, breathing. It's on paper. It's 11 pages. It just sits there. But then you have, 50,000 people, and we have 2,000 transactions a month with living, breathing people reading, interpreting in ways that, is hard to predict sometimes. So when something happens, we're like, well, I didn't really think of it from that perspective. We like to put a video out, or at least talk about it as quickly as we can. It's tough to be reactive because, again, it's a big contract. There's lots of people interpreting it. My interpretation could be different than Todd's. Todd's different than John's. Usually we're pretty in lockstep. So, but verbs and how people interpret words can be different across the board. So that's why it's so important to be tapped into the broker update, because a lot of times I'll call the AAR hotline, legal hotline, which is a direct line for brokers to talk to AAR's legal counsels. And now they're not offering legal advice. They're just offering interpretations of situations, how they may or may not react to it. So a lot of times if I get it enough, or if we have differing opinions, I'll call them and get their answer. So the My Agent portal is usually the best place for you guys to get information. If it's off hours, if you can't get a hold of one of us, if there's a video you need, Todd, can you show the Office Docs tab where all these documents live?
Yeah.
We've created so many different documents for co-broke, to get a broker to broker co-broke if it's off market or if it's not listed yet. We have commission reduction authorizations. We have owner agent addendums. We have just a plethora of different documents you might need during your day-to-day transactions, and then just specific documents for us, disclosures, what docs are even required. If you're a newer agent, what docs should you be looking at every transaction? Just everything that we think you would need if for some reason you can't get a hold of us. Like, we try to be as available or more available than any broker department on the planet. We strive for that, but sometimes, we're doing 2,000 transactions a month. We have a lot of agents, and we can be all on the phone at the same time, or there could be a couple of us on a video here. So that said, I want to dive into the main thing that I've been hearing and dealing with the past few weeks, and that's final walkthroughs, and specifically condition of property. And in this time, there's a lot of people who are either waiving inspections or submitting BINSRs with day 0, or submitting BINSRs with premises accepted, et cetera, et cetera. And we get down to the end and the property is just beat up, or a repair was made and things weren't finished. And the contract's pretty clear that the property, regardless of what you ask for in inspections, what you ask for repair wise, how you accept, if you ask for repair, negotiate repair, if the property still needs to be in substantially the same condition as when you wrote that offer. So if there was beautiful green grass and now it looked like someone drove a dump truck over the yard, that's a problem. Those are things that have to be the same. And the contract's pretty clear on when you do walkthroughs, and it's not by chance on when they put walkthroughs, when they put receipts are to be given to the buyer. It's 3 full days prior. And people, why is it 3 full days? So as Todd pointed out in our meeting today, if the closing's Friday, 3 full days is Monday, not Tuesday. That's Monday. And it's designed to work in lockstep with the cure period notice, any cure period notice, but the final walkthrough cure period notice, because it has 3 full days. If you deliver that on a Monday, that cure needs to be satisfied. So you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You wake up Friday morning and nothing's done, you can cancel that contract which also happens to be your closing day. So I hear agents all the time, well, we're just not gonna close. Well, there is nothing, not one word in the contract that says that the buyer can hold up closing. It doesn't exist. That verbiage doesn't exist. Doesn't matter if the work has not been done. You, as the agent, as the buyer's agent, are supposed to advise them to cure and walk away if you want to. Give them the option. But there's nothing that says, well, we're going to close in 3 days because that's when you said the work was going to be done. Because that seller, if closing's Friday and you don't close Saturday morning, they can wake up and issue you a cure notice for not closing, because now you're in breach of contract. And then we're in a situation of battling cure notices, which and it's whose expires first, who acts on it first. It puts a lot of pressure and stress on a deal or on a situation that's already stressful. So as a buyer's agent, you need to advise them to try to do the final walkthrough 3 full days prior, try to get the receipts 3 full days prior, or I think it's section 6 of the inspection, you can say there's a blank. It's 3 full days prior or blank.
Yeah.
You can write something in. You can write 5 days in. You can write 10 days in. You can write whatever you want in there. And if they agree to it, then what it does is it makes it curable. So if they don't give you those documents, if they don't give you the receipts, if they don't complete the repair work on whatever day you put in there, you can cure them for it. And it's, in my experience, it works a hell of a lot better curing them with a week to go versus curing them the day before closing.
All right. Let me speak to that for a second. So let's just use a real example. I was going to pull up a calendar, but everyone's got a calendar in their pocket. So if you were just to look at this month, for example, June, let's just take June 25th, for lack of anything better, is a Friday. If that for some reason was our contract close of escrow date, Thursday is not a day before. Thursday night at 11:59 is 1 minute prior to COE, because Section 8 of the contract defines all days are calendar days beginning at 12 a.m., ending at 11:59 p.m. So if COE Friday, the 25th, begins at 12 a.m., 1 minute prior is 11:59 on Thursday. That's not a full day. 1 full day prior to COE is Wednesday night, 2 is Tuesday night, and 3 is Monday night. So when we say 3 days prior to closing, the real language is 3 full days prior to COE, and that's Monday night. And that's the deadline for the buyer to sign docs. That's the deadline for the seller to complete any repairs using the standard language in the contract. That means you're doing your walkthrough on Tuesday, which even the AAR website, if you go to it and search, which I do all the time, when did we do the walkthrough? And it was written not only for agents, but for consumers. Well, generally you do it 3 days before closing. What's a consumer going to think if they look at a calendar? Well, what day are we closing again? The 25th. Oh, well, it's 3 days before. 1, 2, 3, Tuesday. That's exactly right. It's 3 days on a calendar, but for us, the repair deadline is Monday. And I get this question all the time. Well, we're not going to do we're not going to sign the docs till we do the walkthrough. That's ridiculous. The guy at Starbucks, really? Yes, you are. You promised the owner of the property you would sign before you walk. And then you're going to do the walkthrough, and then you're going to bring forth your additional money. We have to stop talking about what day are we closing and start talking about the week of closing. The week of closing. COE is recording. That's all that Friday, the 25th, should be for. Nothing else should happen that day. The seller should move out the night before, which they would do if the buyer signed on Monday and did a walkthrough Tuesday and brought all their money in Wednesday. Even the lenders want to fund the loan the day before. They want to fund Thursday. What's the seller waiting for? Move out Thursday night. All the money's in. All the signatures are done. Buyer shouldn't even be moving in on Friday. Should be thinking up, let's run out there at 6 p.m. Let's pop a top, let's clink a glass, woohoo, and we're going to start moving in Saturday. Technically, no one's moving on COE in a perfect world. No one's signing, no one's doing a walkthrough, no one's funding or bringing in money or even picking up money most of the time the week of closing. And there's a short video or two out there on that subject. That's really, really important.
Well, I mean, in reality, if everybody did it that way, we would have a lot less calls.
Way less problems.
Because that's what comes up more. more than anything, and then that always leads to the question too, is like, I find it funny. I mean, maybe it's in the position I'm in, maybe it's because of the deals I've done, maybe it's because of what I see every day. But when people ask, should I cure?
Mhm.
My answer is always, well, what does your client want to do?
Mhm. Yes.
That's who should drive that's who should drive it. Like if
Too
my
many
client wants
eyes
me to
in that
cure,
sentence.
he should cure, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's interesting to me that even this weekend, I was dealing with another broker. We issued a cure notice and he got all bent out of shape because we cured. I'm like, what's the problem? Your seller breached or is in potential breach, didn't do what they said that you
Right.
have this contract with all these things you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
All these things you're guaranteeing to my buyer and you don't do them. Well, how am I supposed to hold you accountable to that? Just with a, you know, I don't understand why what happened in our industry where the cure is so vilified to have people get upset when they receive them. Like
Well,
I should be mad at you because you're not performing.
well,
Like why are you mad at me for delivering a document telling you you're not?
yeah. One thing I could speak to on that subject is, first of all, we shouldn't say, I'm going to cure you. You're not going to cure anybody. You're not a doctor, right? The key word is notice. And the parties already agreed in section 7A that if either party misses a critical date or deadline, the other party agrees to put them on notice. The key word is notice. Here's a notice. You missed the spot, right? And automatically, the bonus that comes with the notice is I now got 3 full additional days to give you that. I have a seller right now. I only do a handful of friends and family type deals to stay fresh and current with the process. But you know, I told him right away the minute the contract was accepted 3 weeks ago, hey seller, you got 20 days to get a septic inspection done. You know, you need to call today. He goes, no, we got plenty of time. I said, no, you don't. Those guys, no, you don't. The guys are 4 weeks out. Call today. Well, he didn't. And all of a sudden he called me yesterday and said, hey, I finally got a guy. He's coming out on the 18th. I said, dude, the 20-day deadline is the 15th, 14th. So really, what are we going to do? It's not my fault. Yes, it is your fault. It's your responsibility. You have a contract with the buyer. He goes, well, what's the worst case? I said, the worst case is the 15th rolls around and they drop a cure notice on your desk. And now you got 3 days to comply, right? 3 full days after receipt. And I said, we better deliver or we're going to be in trouble. Do you want your all cash buyer paying 100 over list to walk scot-free and take all their non-refundable earnest money with them? Well, no. Well, okay, then get her done, right? Seriously, crazy.
Well, and it's just, Todd, like you said, and what will keep you out of trouble, right, is that you told them that up front.
Right.
Set the expectation.
Emails too.
A lot of things in our industry, a lot of problems between clients and our agents would be solved had we set the proper expectation. A lot of it is on the listing side. I mean, I get the market is very difficult to find clients, to find sellers to sell, and all they want is ease, right? They want ease. They want so easy. They think any knucklehead can throw that sign up in the yard and get a deal done, which right now may be true, but that doesn't alleviate what they're signing. It doesn't alleviate your responsibility to them as an agent to prepare them to sell that property. And if you set the expectation, and and I'm a big proponent of setting it in writing, or either at least text message, most of the time email, just, hey, great, we're going to get a contract today. Just so you remember, in 3 days, I need the spuds back. In 5 days, I need the insurance history. You need to open up escrow and send your opening package. This person's going to contact you. And, when they start, because as we all know, once escrow opens, you start getting bombarded on all sides as a consumer. You get the title company talking to you. If you're a buyer, you have the lender talking to you. You have your agent talking to you. You got to get a home inspection. You got to do all these things that can be very overwhelming. And we take it for granted because we're in the industry. We're used to that kind of communication. We're used to doing that every day. We've got to remember, consumers aren't. Unless they're very savvy, they're not doing it, and they're certainly not doing it in a market like this.
Well,
So
I know.
it would alleviate a lot of problems up front if that expectation was set prior to that contract coming in, prior to you going active on the MLS. like, hey, just so you know, we're probably going to get 37 showings. We're probably going to have 30 offers, and we're going to need to respond to them. And, you know, it's best practices for you to initial them, to say that you at least reviewed them and rejected them.
Yeah. And I have three kids that are in their 20s. And if I ever email them some document or something we needed to sign or whatever it is, you know, and it goes with no response for a few days, then I'll be on the phone. I'll be like, hey, did you get the Dad? You know, you have to send a text if you want me to check my email, right? And I'm like, and at first I was annoyed by that. I'm like, what is this crazy stuff? You know, check your email, you know? And I started thinking about it. You know what I do and what I've done for 35 years, or maybe not quite 35, 25 anyway, is I get off the phone with a client and I just got done saying, hey, you better call the septic guy right away because those guys are 3 or 4 weeks out. You know, what do? I send an email. Hey, John, you know, per our conversation 5 minutes ago, let this confirm that you're going to touch base with the title company to make sure they have both payoff information correct, that you're going to call the solar company and let them know you're selling so that they should be watching for the buyer's application to assume your lease. Number 3, you better call, you know, XYZ or ABC Septic and get them all lined up because the deadline is the 14th, 20 days after contract acceptance. You know, and so I do the same thing. I recap phone conversations with email, similar to the way the younger generation wants a text to alert them to an email.
And it's just really, really good practice. And if our legal counsel Dax was on here, he would call it papering your file.
Yeah.
And you know, people will think it's redundant and annoying, and it's only redundant. It's not redundant and annoying anymore when you have a really big problem and you have an email or a text message that saves your bacon. Yeah. So there's been several situations that had someone just like, for instance, getting the MLS Plano signed or the data sheet signed. Had that gotten done, you know, we would have avoided a couple problems.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like it's very, very silly. Why are we doing that? It's on the market. They can verify that stuff. They can look at it. But you also want them to acknowledge that it's correct. You have it correct to the best of their knowledge, and that they can't come back and say that you put something incorrect or you obligated them to do something that they didn't think they had to do.
I think an example of that we had recently, not too long ago, you might remember, was the MLS public remarks of the MLS Plano said built-in Murphy bed. Remember that one?
Yep.
You know, it said right in there. And so then we get down to the final walkthrough and the buyer goes through and someone took the Murphy bed off the wall and it was screwed in and attached to the wall. And right away, the seller says, what? Nobody told me that was a fixture, right? Okay, that sounds kind of weak and ignorant. But our agent, you know, we get on the phone right away. It's like, well, you know, did you tell? Well, I told them. Yeah, do you have the email? Do you have the text? Well, no, but I told it. Yeah, really? Well, now it's what the consumer says you did or didn't do versus what you, the licensed professional, says. And by the way, because you're the licensed professional, that doesn't mean your word is more important than their word. It means you're responsible for going the extra mile. You have a license to provide service, not to get away with things, right? And so if our agent had only had an email per our conversation 15 minutes ago, when the movers come next week, be sure to tell them not to take the Murphy bed. You know, it's a fixture, right? Or had he, which you were just saying, had he had them initial the MLS plan, or had he had them initial the input or profile sheet, they would have seen that in there and we would have had more ground to stand on. What ended up happening? I believe that the $3,000 Murphy bed, the buyer agreed to accept $1,500, and who wrote the check?
Our agent wrote the check.
Yep.
$1,500.
And I don't agree that he should have had to, but at the same time, he didn't go the extra mile with a phone, an email or a text or something to confirm the conversation with the client. And paper trail, or like you said, Dax says, paper your file, paper your steps, document your steps. It's important. These are big things. And unfortunately, we don't want to see fines or penalties or commissionectomies, for our agents. It's hard enough out there right now, let alone having to cough it up once in a while.
Well, and that's the thing, like we talked about earlier, this market is so crazy. It's moving so fast. You need to respond in 10 minutes. You have to have that DocuSign back, or they're going to they're very likely could get a better offer in that 15-minute lag time between them signing it and you sending the offer in. Things can be missed. Conversations on the phone can be, can be misconstrued. A client could think a completely different thing than what you thought the conversation meant. That's why confirming it in writing and saying, hey, reply to me if this isn't right, or reply to me if this is right.
Yeah.
At least you give them the opportunity to call you back, call you on it, say, no,
Right.
That's not right. That's not what I meant at all.
Agreed.
Versus a conversation and then moving forward, and then we sign the documents and we're in escrow, and then at that point it can't be fixed. Like I always say, the broker department is here to keep you out of trouble. Once those documents are signed, addendum signed, contracts executed at title, it's very hard to change. And it's usually, like Todd always says, it's usually you got to give something up to get something back. We need an addendum signed. Well, guess what? You might have to throw in a home warranty. You might have to extend the COE to what they actually wanted. You might have to give them a few more days on the home inspection, things like that.
It's an old-fashioned exchange principle. Hey, there is a couple of questions on the chat that we can cover real quick. Somebody was talking about a video on multiple offers, and so thank you for that suggestion. I'll be happy to do one probably later this week, depending on when they're setting up to record in the studio. The second thing about that is I know there is one in there about multiple counter offers. So if you go to map and you go back to the dashboard, you scroll back down to that broker department tile and get over to broker corner, you can find that one as well. But the bottom line on this in this session today is that anytime anyone's making a multiple offer or a multiple counter offer, it has to be disclosed in writing to the other party. So if you're putting in an offer today, there is a multiple offer form, but it's pretty underutilized. Even if it just had something in section 8A that said the seller is aware, just like you do when you say that the buyer is aware that the seller is a licensee in Nevada, or that the listing agent is related to the owner of the property, you could put something in there that the seller is aware that the buyer is making multiple offers. And as a result may cancel, during the inspection period if more than one is accepted. You just have to let people know. Now, I would say that would seriously weaken your offer unless you're an investor and it's a wholesale property, because if it's a retail property, I'm looking for the person who loves my house and who wants to breathe that air and is willing to pay me extra for it. So you're going to weaken it seriously because you're sending a message, we're not that into you. In my opinion. The second question or thing in the chat that came up is, what do we do about appraisals that aren't coming in on time? And we see and hear this all the time. I'm a former lender. Most of you probably know that. I spent 25 years in that side of our business. But the lender is not a party to the contract. Just like my seller who can't get the septic guy, who's not the septic guy's fault. The buyer and the seller formed an agreement and they expect each other to uphold it. If you made me an offer contingent on financing, you promised me you'd get the appraisal done. You promised me you'd get docs out a week prior. You promised me you would go sign 3 full days prior, Monday, if COE is Friday. Not the lender, you. Now, a smart seller in this market, smart seller in any market, I advise them all the time, when you counter back on closing date or price, counter back that the buyer agrees to instruct the lender to order the appraisal immediately upon acceptance, that they agree to instruct the lender to fund the loan the day before COE, that they agree to get docs out a week prior. Whatever you need to do to put some curable timelines into the contract, an LSU weekly after the initial one in 5 or 10 days. Those are deadlines that become curable and they're important. And I think that's something you can do with that. Otherwise, right now, you're going to have to beg. Your lender didn't order the appraisal. And I wish I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, we're not going to order the appraisal till we get the inspection back. So we get through the Binzer process. Really? If you have a 10-day inspection period and 5 days for the seller to respond to the buyer inspection notice, and 5 more days for the buyer to respond to the seller's response. That's a 20-day period. Then you're going to order the appraisal, and appraisers are backed up and busy right now. I hope we're not closing in 30 days because you won't make it. You can't just miraculously make up for 2 weeks or 3 weeks of lost time.
That's true. Just real quick, guys. So what Todd was talking about, multiple offers, section 5C is what covers this. It's a buyer warranty section. It says buyer warrants that buyer has disclosed to the seller any information that may materially or adversely affect buyer's ability to close. And getting multiple contracts accepted where you can only buy one property, I would say materially affects the situation. And also it falls under the category of, if I knew then what I know now, would I have accepted your offer?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that need to be disclosed. I know it's not, and I think that mostly goes with coaching your clients. I know that they want to put multiple offers in on different properties, but that could get you as a licensee into hot water.
Yeah, we see this one a lot, like when someone's divorcing and the both names are on title, and eventually we're going to need someone to go in and disclaim, or maybe the one party's buying something that the other party's not part of. And there's going to need to be a quitclaim deed or a disclaimer deed. And of course, we know there's emotions and feelings and settlements and, separations and things going on. And all of a sudden, one of the parties just decides, nah, I'm not going to go sign. And the buyer's like, well, it's not my fault. I mean, he won't go. It's like, yeah, it is your fault, because you needed to disclose up front that this deal was contingent on you getting the gift from mom and dad, or you getting a signature from somebody who's got an equitable interest in something. And that's important. The other part of 5C, of course, is the part that the buyer isn't relying on any verbal representations about the premises. This is one of the reasons we never want the seller home during showings, because sellers have a tendency, to over exaggerate things. And, you check out that new roof up there. I mean, that thing's guaranteed to last forever. Really? That's a seller warranty, right? Check out that stucco repair work. That's permanent. That will be, like, really? Okay, you just promised me lifetime stucco. So these are things that if a seller ever tells a buyer anything prior to offer, which they shouldn't, you want to get that down here. My wife and I bought a house 2.5 years ago, and the seller, we walked around, we saw a few stains in the ceiling, and right away said, oh, don't worry about those. We've had a couple of roof leaks. It's the original roof. We're going to replace the entire roof. Now, he didn't mean lift all the trusses off, of course, but he meant a complete restack. And so what did we do? We made an offer. We wrote it right in here. Seller agrees to remove all roof tiles, replace any sheeting, install 2-ply 40-pound paper, reset all the tiles, repack all the motor caps, install the bird guard, and boom, offer a 10-year warranty. Something like that. We wrote it right in here. Doesn't need to be on the Binzer, because the seller has a chance to say no on the Binzer. This was not a no. This was a definite yes, and this is where we covered that.
That's again, it falls under setting the expectations with your clients and making sure that they understand what they're doing. But we have to make sure that they understand what they're doing. Like, I don't know how many people have read the warranty section of the contract, but it's super important to read it, because it says it's where they talk about the condition of the property, what the seller is agreeing to, what the buyer is agreeing to, what warranties survive closing, what warranties don't survive closing. It's a very important section of the contract for expectations, and it's a very important section of the contract for you to understand, because that's where a lot of people get caught up and a lot of things go down that could have, should have, and been mitigated up front. So I'm going to open it up real quick. Does anybody have any? We have about 15 minutes left. Anybody have any questions? I see we just had the one. Anybody have any questions that we haven't covered? Anything that is on your mind?
Andrew, could you go back to, maybe I misunderstood, maybe it's a case of semantics, but it was in regard to the cure period when you had said that the buyer, I think the example you gave was the seller hadn't completed the work. The buyer cannot hold up escrow. Maybe it's just my understanding of what you said, but if you drop that cure notice on them, you could basically, whatever you want to call it, you're canceling the contract, correct? I mean, you can not be forced to go through with the purchase if you give the
correct. So what I meant was, if your buyer still intends to close escrow, you can't delay it without an addendum. You can't unilaterally change terms of the contract. So if you are waiting for some work to be done, and let's say you didn't drop your cure notice, you don't have an addendum, and close of escrow comes and goes, well, the seller has every right to drop a cure notice on you for failure to close escrow.
That's right.
If that seller's decided, hey, that repair is too expensive, or I have a better offer, they can cancel the contract and keep your earnest money.
Right.
That's why it's very important for you to have your cure notice done first.
That's right. We can have dueling cure notices.
We have it all the time. We have it, that happens every day where there's a dueling cure notice. So it's just one of those things where there's no reason to not drop the cure notice. It's only protecting your buyer, and it's just doesn't exist. I see it all the time on the forum, the real Arizona real estate forum. I see it all the time on our mastermind. Well, you got to delay closing. Well, that's okay, but that's not, you're going to be in potential breach. So you're basically advising your client to potentially breach the contract.
I always say, if for some reason we issue a cure notice, as the walkthrough form, by the way, itself, just so you know, I have it on the screen here. This is a cure notice. If you look at the bottom of your screen, if you do a pre-closing walkthrough, and generally if I represent a buyer, which isn't that often, we do too. We do a preliminary walkthrough, 3 calendar days, not full days, but let's say Tuesday in our Friday example earlier, to do a preliminary walkthrough, number one, to confirm any repairs agreed to on the bins are done, because there's 2 purposes of doing the walkthrough. One is to confirm repairs, and one is to confirm that the premises is in substantially the same condition. That's the seller warranty piece. The seller is selling the house to you. Everybody wants to say as is, as was. It actually is as was. You had an example, Andrew, we talked about earlier. I was gone last week, but that came up where the seller did the septic inspection, found out there were some problems, and as agreed, they had to go in and spend the money to have the septic system repaired. Maybe there was some blockage or leakage or whatever it was. They got 20 grand or something later. They got it all done. And then the buyer comes to do a walkthrough, and all the septic things were done just as agreed. But what was the problem?
The lawn was in shambles.
Tore the lawn up. Now, right away, the seller's like, oh, no, not my problem. As is, baby. You said as is. No, we didn't. We said as was. If your seller dolled the house all up for this whole 72-hour sold concept, listed on Thursday, goes active Friday, open house, back-to-back open houses over the weekend, and full price offer Monday morning, guess what? That house was dialed up. That yard was dialed in. Beautiful green grass. And that's how they have to deliver it the day of closing. That's what 5A is. You sold me the house in its present physical condition, but it needs to be delivered as it was. And the cure notice would be to come out and say, hey, all the repairs are done, but we're checking box 2 here because the property is not in substantially the same condition. The seller now has to make a fast trip to what I always call the ATM. They need to take immediate action, get someone out there and restore that, resod that yard or whatever it needs to be done. Or they need to pitch an addendum offering the buyer something in exchange for what? More time. Right? Or they need to come up with an addendum, say, hey, buyer, I'll tell you what if we knock $5 grand off the price, or we suddenly pick up $5 grand and you restore the lawn the way you want it. Maybe you want to put rock in instead of grass down or whatever it is, more pavers. I don't care. Here's money. ATM, action, time, or money. And the cure notice is the trigger to one of those 3 responses. I'm giving you the notice You are finding the cure, the remedy, the solution.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
So what if the seller says, I'm not going to do anything
Yeah.
about it? You've cured them and they say they're not going to do anything. Is it at that point, it's up to the buyer to say, well, I guess we're going to move forward
Yes.
or cancel?
Yeah, so just to be careful, we're not going to say you cured them. You issued a cure notice, though, right? You notified them. Houston, we have a problem. And the seller decides, too bad, so sad, you can't make me. You're right. Now the buyer's got a tough decision to make. One, could they wait 3 days and cancel and take their money with them? Maybe. It's hard to do in this market. It would be easy to do on a house in a different market, or or on a property they're just not that into. Number two, they can just decide to move forward and let it go and restore the grass themselves. There could be backup offers. We always say that the seller doesn't have any direct outs to the contract, but their first indirect out is slamming the door, what we call the fast no on the binzer. Buyer submits a buyer inspection notice, call it the bin, asking for 20 things, and the seller already has, I've done this myself, we already have the seller response queued up with the no box checked. No. And the minute you send over, hey, Todd, just calling to confirm you got the bins, bam, did you get the response? What do you mean? I just said it. I know. It's a no. What do some buyers do when the seller issues a fast no? They walk. Really? You're not even going to change the air filter? Well, we're going on. All right, bye, right? It's a fast no. The second indirect out is to not do the repairs. Get down to closing. You say, yeah, what are you going to do? Right? Now, we don't want to advise our sellers to do this, but this is just reality, especially when the market gets tilted like it is now. So what are you going to do, buyer? You're going to move forward. And here's the one thing we can't do. We can't tell them what to do. We can give them the options. You want to cancel? You want to move forward? Or do you want to pitch the seller an addendum, pitch them their own solution? Hey, tell you what, we're willing to let the whole yard go because we kind of had a different plan in mind anyway. If you buy me a home warranty, if you pick up the title insurance, whatever it is, here's an addendum. The addendum is the cure 9 times out of 10. It's supposed to come from the seller, but in some cases it's from the buyer. At the end of the day, what are they going to do? Maybe they're going to decide just to move forward.
Good suggestions.
Yeah. You get lucky.
I have one more question if I can.
Sure.
And that was, Andrew was talking in the beginning about he's seeing a lot of sellers backing out.
Mhm.
How is that happening, and what can we do to protect our buyers, if anything? I guess at what point are sellers backing out? How do they go about backing out?
Well, I'll give you the short answer and let Andrew finish it. First of all, very few judges can make a seller move, but they can make them write a check, and they're usually pretty ornery about it. I saw something on like the Go Gilbert Facebook page, which was started by a friend of mine the other day. It was about someone's parked a car in front of someone's driveway, and it also was blocking a fire hydrant. And people are like, right away, call a tow truck. I mean, you can't literally call a tow truck. You call the police, and the police decide if they want to call a tow truck. And if a tow truck isn't available and you're blocking a fire hydrant, you've seen the police before where they'll literally drag the car down the street. They'll push it out of the way. They'll do something, and they're not always that friendly about it. They're not worried about if they damage your vehicle because you shouldn't have parked there in the first place. The issue here would be that some sellers, that some judges, they're not afraid to issue a judgment against the seller. So a buyer would have to sue for breach of contract. First, they'd have to lay down a cure notice. The seller failed to close, failed to vacate the premises, failed to turn over possession. Those are all sections of the contract, 1D, 1E, things like that. And then they'd have to wait it out, send a second notice. You failed to cure the potential breach, and now we're going to decide, are we going to go find another house, or are we going to pursue legal action? And they may end up getting a check. The seller may have to write a big check to keep their house if they lose the court battle.
So there's a couple questions. So I'll follow up with what Todd said. What is the buyer's options if they decide they're not going to sell? Well, I mean, it's not much, not anything that's fun, not anything that's easy. It's all about if you want to go down that long road of litigation and get a judgment against someone and get a list pendants put on their property, which is, I would say pretty expensive and time consuming. And then at the end of the day, you still don't have the house.
Mhm.
So A lot of things would need to go into that. I know everybody gets pissed off and I'm going to retain legal counsel and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Well, cooler heads usually prevail and the buyer usually gets out. And I usually suggest, well, why don't you buy the buyer out?
Yeah.
Buy that right back to sell your
Mutual
house.
cans.
Yep. Get a mutual cancellation. But so, and whenever this comes up, everybody, like, well, what's the point of the contract? Well, it's just like anything else in this life. We have a contract, we have an agreement, but if you don't want to abide by the rules, well, there's cops for that. If you don't want to abide by the rules, well, there's legal for that.
Mhm.
And there's judges for that. So it's just like that. Most people will figure it out, or they'll change their mind, or they'll buy the buyer back, they'll buy the buyer out. I've
Mhm.
seen people, give the buyer money and also agree that if they sell the house in the next 2 years, they're going to sell it to that buyer for that price. Because
Mhm.
otherwise the buyer has a contract.
Mhm.
The buyer can go get legal action and make the seller pay to defend themselves. So it's just one of those things where it never ends well. No one's ever happy, neither side. And there's not a lot we can do. There's not a lot you and me as agents can do in this situation. We can advise the buyer and seller. The best thing you can do is advise them before they make that decision, advise legal counsel.
Yeah.
And that's
I would say you're leveraging, just to recap that, the buyer would leverage the possible litigation, the cloud hanging over the seller's head, the potential breach of contract and the ramifications of what might follow to negotiate mutual cans. If they're not going to move, they're not going to move. And so how do I do that? And this is one reason where buyers always want to limp in on $1,000 earnest money. This is one case where having heavier earnest money up front could be a benefit to a buyer, because if I'm a buyer and you're not going to perform, I want 2 or 3 times my earnest money in mutual cans money. So if I put up 10, you're going to need to write a check for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50,000 if you're going to breach the contract with me. So a healthier earnest money deposit could be a good idea for some buyers if there's any chance that the seller doesn't perform, because leveraging that to get a mutual cans and a settlement would be better for some sellers than worrying about whether you got a rich uncle who's an attorney from Chicago that's going to take them to the mat.
Just real quick, Todd, I want to jam through. There's a couple questions that
Yeah,
popped
sure.
up. So Kelly, you asked about buyer pre-closing walkthrough checking box 2. No, that's a buyer side that does not give the seller the right to cancel. It only gives the buyer the right to make a decision if the seller doesn't cure their breach.
It's unilateral.
Yep, unilateral. Sarah, you asked, could a buyer potentially sue for not completing the repairs? Yes, you could. If you have a bunch of repairs, you have to drop the cure. You have to list them out, and if you decide to close escrow, you could potentially walk into small claims court or talk to an attorney, because they still, at the end of the day, didn't breach their contract. They didn't fulfill the contract.
Yeah.
So
don't forget the follow-up notice too, by the way. The notice form, disclosure form, and zip form or transaction desk is often overlooked. It's got 100 uses, sort of like WD-40 or duct tape. But if you issue a cure notice today for failure to comply with, a certain provision of the contract, like Section 6J, and repairs weren't made, then if you decide to go ahead and close, you follow the next day with a regular notice and just say seller failed to cure the potential breach. Buyer decided to close anyway and take it up with Judge Wapner later. And maybe they do and maybe they don't. But if he walked into the courtroom and they said right away, show me the evidence. Well, he said and she said and the guy, get out of my courtroom. But if it's all of a sudden, well, here's the contract that we both signed. Here's the cure notice we issued 3 days prior to closing. Here's the follow-up notice we sent the day after saying we're closing anyway, and we'll take it up here. And here we are today. Woo, that's pretty hard to dispute. Paper your file like that.
Exactly. So Nancy, Todd, might want to chime in on this one too. Any other agent owner listing suggestions? So if you're listing your own house, you have the owner agent addendum. You're disclosing your licenses. You can't represent both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make noted on the MLS. Any advertising has to disclose it. Your sign has to have a sign writer that says owner agent.
Yep.
I think That's it.
Well, I think the other part for me with the underlying current is that you're expected to perform at a higher level. We expect it, and the community, the consumer expects it. You're a licensed professional, and they aren't, and so they're at a disadvantage. For me, the Department of Real Estate, the reason they require owner agent everywhere is because the translation is buyer beware. Buyer beware. They should get their own agent because you're about to go up against someone who does this every day, and they're going to outfox you somewhere along the line. And so that's the reason, as a warning to the consumer. Plus, we have an owner agent addendum that covers the things that we need to do in order to get an exception and have E&O coverage on owner agent listings. Otherwise, there isn't any. And we have you sign an indemnification form confirming there isn't any.
Right.
Oh,
So-
so there's no E&O insurance on our own deals?
Not if you don't meet the tests that are in the owner agent addendum.
Oh, okay.
If you cross every T and dot every I and you hold title in your own name, yes, we can get an exception. But if you don't, we can't. And then we have you sign the indemnification.
Gotcha. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You bet.
So a couple of things real quick, guys. The new ER is now required.
Oh, yeah.
To my home group. So it shouldn't even be available. So if you've downloaded the old one, the old ER, please don't use that anymore. Get the new one from Transaction Desk and use that one exclusively. We will be looking for that in your files when we do review. And then on the owner agent addendum, just real quick, I want to speak to that. I had a client, I had a very irate father call me from California about a house his daughter bought from one of my agents and said that she didn't perform and she should be held to a higher standard. And I very quickly shut him down when I had him, because she had a signed owner agent addendum. I'm like, look at all, I'm like, she's like, she didn't have a home warranty, all these things. I'm like, she was given every opportunity to do a home inspection, a home warranty, and she even initialed and signed on this addendum that she had those opportunities. So it was very easy. It's always easier to defend you guys and go to the mat for you when I have all the documentation. I could say, hey, you knew about it, you signed it, you agreed to it, you wanted the house at the time. So coming to me after closing with problems doesn't, it's not going to go anywhere. So just again, it's not a form for inconvenience. It's a form for protection, and it's a form for disclosure, and it's a form that if you have it in your file, you'll have a lot less problems for yourself personally. As a seller, you got to remember, as Todd said, you're held to a higher standard being a licensee, and they will take that into account should it ever get to litigation.
There's a whole page in our broker policy manual that talks about this subject that's worth reviewing. And I believe I've recorded at least 2 videos on owner agent or when an agent is acting as a principal. Sometimes you're the buyer, but in most cases, the questions are about when you're the seller, when you're acting as a principal. And so check those videos out for sure. I know we're out of time, but these are fun discussions to have. It's a great way for us to interact with you. But once again, broker hotline, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. Broker email. If you're sending emails to Andrew at Todd at John at, send it to brokers at my home group. Last week was a good example. I was on vacation. I'm normally the one who monitors our email, and I'm out of town, and Andrew's in there, or Camille's in there, or somebody's in there. And we really, if you were sending an email directly to me, unfortunately, it was a day or 2 or 3 before I could get to it. And we don't want that. We want to be able to answer those within an hour or 2, mostly, certainly within a day, the same day. So anyway,
that's all we got, guys. If you have any questions, like Todd said, email us, call us. Hopefully you guys found that informative, and leave some comments for us. Let us know. Appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.
See you later.